A very good morning to all. In today's session, we're all going to learn about research and its process. So let's begin with the definition of research. So research is almost a careful investigation about a particular subject, about a particular concern, about the problems which are related to the social issues or concern using a scientific methods that's called research. So, according to the American sociologist whose name is L. Robert Barbie, he defined that research is a systematic inquiry to describe, to explain, to predict, to control whatever the observed phenomenon is available in the current scenario, and it always includes the two types of methods that is called inductive and deductive methods, and that's called research. Inductive methods is always analyzed any observed event, whatever the available to observe into our surroundings. That is called the inductive method, is just to analyze that observed event. While deductive methods is verify that observed event, whether every parameters that has been observe whether it would be in a right direction or not. So if any of the analysts verify that observed event, that's called deductive methods. So according to the L. Robert Barbie, who is an American sociologist, he always define that research is mean to describe, explain, predict, and control whatever the observed events available in the current scenario or which needed to study, and with the use of inductive and deductive methods. And that's all about the exact definitions of inductive and deductive methods as well. As inductive methods are associated with the qualitative research always refers to study the you can see the attributes and the characteristics of the population or individual, whereas the deductive methods are more quantitative in nature. That means deals with the more numerical figures, facts, values, etc. And that is called deductive method, because verifications is always being done with numerically, and that's why it refers to a deductive approach which deals with the quantitative analysis, and inductive approach which deals with the qualitative approaches or research. So research has many objectives or plenty of objectives. So the research is always being conducted with the purposes like to identify the potential and new customers, understand the existing customers, set a pragmatic goals or different or diverse goals, develop a productive market strategies, how a particular researcher address the business challenges, how they can together work as a team to expand any business or to prepare any business plan, how they will identify the new business opportunities in the market. So when a particular portions has to be occurred and these aims of research is to be prepared, and accordingly the researcher analyze the focus areas of study, and accordingly these particular purposes of research will be fulfilled. These are the examples of research. The first one is a study to identify the correlation between the rain levels and the forest fires. So automatically, if you get to know the main concern or issues, so that on that issues a study can be conducted, and this is how a study has been is to identify the correlation between the rain levels and forest fires, a study on the origination of the cryptocurrency, and of course, a study to determine the factors that contribute the stress levels of an individual. So these are the research concerned the social issues that a particular study, a research study could be conducted. What is research question? A research question is a clear, concise, and an open-ended question, so that a particular researcher is mainly develop or prepare their research paper, the project, or a review of literature. Review of literature is or refers to an existing studies which a particular researcher has already done on a specific research areas of a particular subjects, that is called literature review. It always forms research quotient forms a foundation of a research based assignments, and how it will progress into a stage of the entire research process. So a well-made research quotient is very much essential, that how they will define the scope and the direction of a paper, how it will guide you collecting a relevant information or data, so that a meaningful conclusion could come out. So, as a researcher, if you are not only summarizing a topic, you are attempting to find out a gap, a literature in a existing articles where where you are answer a researchable and the narrow questions which is belong to a new topic or new or a fresh topic, and try to find out a gap between the existing literature and relate to your particular questions, research questions. Let's take an example. The research topic is anxiety and social media. So the research, how the research question is to be made up, that is how does the TikTok affect the anxiety and depression level in young people. So this is how the research question is being prepared according to the research topic which you have chosen for your project, for your report, and how you will find out a gap between the review of literature or the existing articles and your study. So this is all about the research question. The next concept is the research problem. Research problem is refers to a specific issue or any gap exists or available in the existing knowledge that you want to address in your current research. And that is called the research problem. A particular researcher may can choose to look the practical problems which always aims to contribute to change, or any of the theoretical problems which always aimed to expand into a new knowledge. So let's talk about one of the example of a specific research problem, that is a local non-profit organization which always focus to elevate the food insecurities, has always fundraised from its existing support base. So this is a statement, a fact, that a local non-profit organization focused on alleviating the food insecurity, which always based on a fund raised from its existing customer support base. It lacks understanding of how best to target. So one of the research or one of the problem in this particular fact is it lacks to understand that how what would be the best way to target the potential new donors. And to continue its work, the organization requires research into a more effective fundraising strategies, so that they can target, they can convince the new donors, and accordingly, the funds could be raised and used to elevate the food insecurity. So this is how the research problem could be drive. You have to mention the fact first and just try to find out the issue in it, and then talk about the solution. So this is called a research problem. Next, we can come up to the important concept that is called a research methodology. Research methodology is a way that how a particular researcher needs to explain to carry out their research. It should be a logical, it should be a systematic plan that how a researcher is resolve a research problem. So a methodology is always aims to describe a researcher approach that how his or her research is to be reliable, a valid research results to be come out, which always address their research aims and objectives, and how the data they are going to collect, where from where they will collect the data, how much time period actually needed to collect the data and analyze the same. And that is exactly the work of the researcher that he or she has to do using up a research, a proper and accurate research methodology while preparing in it. A suitable research methodology it always yield a scientifically a solid result. So when a particular researcher is always aims to follow a best to best research approaches, valid results has come out, achieve their aims and objectives, then definitely will reach out to the solid results. Whereas a loosey methodology yields none. It will not gain anything new. You cannot even average results as well. So it is very important that but for a particular research report or project, a research methodology must be accurate so that a particular research project would be goes in one right direction. Hence, it always highlights some basics concepts, basic questions to answer of our research. That is what, how, and why. What would be the research area that a particular researcher want to consider where a huge issues and gaps available, how the research it would be conducted, how the objective is to be prepared, why there is a need to study this area, why a particular researcher intend to study this area. That is all about to answer under the research methodology, because after all research methodology is based on these three basic questions to answer for our research. And if a particular researcher has understood these three basic highlights, then definitely the project is automatically goes into a right direction. Next one is the research method. What is research methods are? Research methods are the systematic approaches which are being used to collect, to analyze, to interpret the data in a scientific investigation. It always includes a plenty of techniques which such as surveys, experiments, interviews, observation, and each particular technique will be used according to the specific types of research questions and objectives. So research methods are the tools and techniques where a researcher used to gather and analyze the data. So after all, research methods are the backbone of the any research project, which always helps to answer a researcher questions and accordingly test hypothesis. Now the question arises is what is hypothesis? So hypotheses are the declarative and assumptive or the predictive statements a particular researcher test whether this statement is exactly right or wrong using an appropriate research method, and that is called hypothesis. So normally or in a simple sense, hypotheses are the assumptive, declarative, predictive statements where a particular researcher needs a research or to test whether it is whether this particular fact or predictive fact is right or wrong, but it could get to know using an appropriate research methods that's called tools and techniques, and how it could gather and analyze data. So the choice of the research method depends on the nature of the research question, the type of the data needed, and the resources which are available for the research study. Now we can come up to the main types of research methods. The first one is qualitative research method. So the qualitative research method is always being focused on collecting and analyzing the non-numerical data. Ultimately, it focuses on the attribute and the characteristics of the individual or the population, where a particular researcher are intend to use these methods to explore a complex situation or complexities and understand the human experiences, or developing the new theories, like to understand the perception and the experience of the customers towards social media. So this is called a qualitative research study, where a qualitative research methods is to be applied. So common qualitative research method includes interviews, focus groups, participant observations, and these approaches is always allow the researchers that how they will gather a detailed information about the people thoughts, feelings, and behavior. So let's understand through the example. A researcher studying the workplace culture might conduct in-depth interviews with employees. So automatically, in order to understand the workplace culture of the organization, the researcher needs to conduct in-depth interviews for all employees in order to understand their experiences, their perceptions about their workplace. So this is called one of the example of qualitative research methods, where we are studying their experiences, their perceptions, or about the culture. Because workplace culture cannot be measured numerically, cannot be measured quantitatively, and that's why it is termed as one of the qualitative research methods, that how we can study the workplace culture, we can study the experiences, the perceptions, the languages, the satisfaction, or and so on, using the qualitative research methods. Next one is quantitative research methods. So the quantitative research method, it always deals with the more and more numerical facts, numerical data, and the statistical analysis, where any of the variables, where any of the you can say particular issue will needs to prove through quantitative in nature. So these methods are used when a researcher used to measure any of the variables, test any of the hypotheses, how they will identify the relationships between a different factors. So quantitative research is typically involve a larger sample sizes and needs to generate or produce valid results or generalizable results. So the common quantitative research methods include surveys, experiments, statistical analysis of the existing data. So the statistical analysis is mainly classified into two main parts: descriptive statistics, which mainly deals with the description of a data using tables, diagram, graphs, the means, the measures of statistics like central tendencies, description, correlation, etc. When we talk about the inferior statistics, are it's mainly aims at how the researcher could conclude the study, and through the advanced tools of statistics like the parametric and the non-parametric tests like t-test, z-test, f-test, Carl-Pearson correlational test, factor analysis. These are the advanced statistical tools and techniques which are used under the quantitative research. And that's why these are the part of the quantitative research method as a whole. So let's, in order to understand this concept more clearly, let's understand the example. A researcher studying the effectiveness of a new teaching method. So automatically, when in any of the schools, in any of the colleges, need to study the effectiveness of any new aided teaching method or tools, then of course it needs experiment. It needs experiment to compare the test scores between the group of students taught with different methods. And that's why it needs experiments, and experiments, it's one of the tool or one of the methods of the quantitative research. So in order to understand, it is very important to compare the test scores of different groups of students using different methods, and in order then in this way, in this process, the particular researcher get to know that which teaching method, including new one, is best for the students, and accordingly that will be adopted or applied for the sake of the study for the students. So this is how the quantitative research would be conducted, and it could be conducted through the numerically only, and how the numerical figures and the facts could come out, and then the interpretation would goes on in a research study. Next one is a mixed methods research. Mixed methods, mixed methods research, which always leads to a combination of both qualitative and the quantitative approaches. So it depends upon the each type of the study. So this type of research is always recognizes that each method has its strength and limitations. So while combining, it becomes a mixed method research. So it is very important to, before apply this method, a particular researcher could gain a more comprehensive understanding of the topic under study. So in the mixed method research, qualitative and quantitative data are collected and analyzed separately, and how they will integrate it to provide a fuller picture of a study or of a data, collected data or a data sample. So let's understand the example. A study on patient satisfaction in hospital. They use the survey to gather the quantitative data on the overall satisfaction level, followed by an in-depth interview by the subset of patient to understand the reasons behind their ratings. So whatever they are rating to the various satisfaction levels on the various parameters, in order to understand their reasons as well, and accordingly they will term as a qualitative, and if they're using the you can say the questionnaires or the surveys, that could be considered as a quantitative. Now we can come up to the most important part of this section, that how, what is the difference between the research method and the research methodology. Let's understand the basis of comparison meaning. Research method, it always includes all those methods which are used by the researcher to conduct the research. But research methodology is one of the efficient way or the technique that how the research problems is to be solved efficiently. Now, what is it? It always, research method is always used to how to assess the behavior. What would be the instruments to be used to to select, and how the construct the research technique. But research methodology is a science of understanding how the research is performed methodologically. Focus it carrying out the experiment, tests, surveys, and so on. But research methodology it study the different techniques which could be utilized at how the performances of the experiment, test, and survey would be. It means the research method will be used to carry it out to conduct an experiment, test, survey. But research methodology is always used to assess the performances of those experiment tests, surveys, and so on. And that is called research methodology. It includes of that research method, of course, adopt the different investigation tools and techniques, but research methodology adopt the entire strategies that how to achieve the objective and its permanent need to achieve the objectives. Next is objectives. What would be the objectives of the research method and the research methodology? To discover a solution to the research problem that you just mentioned the solution then were of the research problems in this using of the research methods, but research methodology or under the research methodology it apply the correct procedures so that to reach out the solutions, and that's to be done through the research methodology. But always research method is always discover what would be the solution of a research problem. But research methodology need to apply what will be the correct procedure or process so that to determine the solution of a problems. And that's the one of the main objective of the research methodology. Let's come to the what is business research method. The business research method is always include a set of research procedures, the techniques, the tactics which are used by the organization so that to meet up the or to solve the business issues and accordingly contributing their time and efforts. So in through solving any of the business issues or concern, research methodologies will always assist businesses in determining the feasibility of their firms, and and such research methodology which always recommend the right type of marketing strategies for what the business offers to their customers in the market. So business research may always assess that how it will determine the desires of the client and allow to design better goods and services. And in this way, the business always draw an attention to the unique difficulties which the company could address into their businesses. So automatically, business research highlights the major concern of the company products, and in this way, everything the firm operates and able to achieve its objective through using up the business research method. For example, a mobile company wants to launch a new model in the market, but it needs to be made aware of the dimensions of a mobile that are in most demand. So automatically, what the company could do to get the awareness about the dimensions of a mobile that is in most demand in the market. The company can so in this way to understand this scenario, the company conducts business research using various methods to gather information and to test the market demand, and which is then evaluated. So automatically they just conduct the various methods and accordingly test that particular market demand and whether such products are actually in demand in that particular market, and accordingly it will be evaluated. And once the conclusion has been drawn that what dimensions are most in demand, then the company will take a decision to launch a new model into that market. And this is how the business research methods or research methodology will be applied to solve the complexities and the issues, you can say, in the market which are faced by the organizations. So some of the critical areas where the business research is used. The first one is reducing risk. So automatically, these are the critical issues where the business research would be applied. That is to reduce risk. Any company, whether large, small, of course, their main aim to reduce the risk wherever is possible. Next one is identify the threats of the businesses, the concerns of the businesses, which are leads to losses of the for them. So automatically the business research is to be conducted. Helps businesses to build customer centric. So automatically when we talk about businesses, so our business researchers also helps the businesses that how they will build their market as a customer centric. Next one is forecast the revenues. What would be the revenues in the next 5 years or the next 1 year or for the next 6 months, using up the situation or the current scenarios of the organization businesses. Next one is acquire a more competitive business, and of course, one of the aim that of the business research also just to acquire to reach out a more comprehensive business plan so that it could be applied according to situations or circumstances. Now we can come up to the importance of business research. So it always leads for new ideas and insights. So research always gives a particular researcher a scientific and a rational thinking and how it will study or develop the logical habits of thinking and organization. So the role of research in several fields of applied economics is always be considerably increased in the modern times or modern organization, whether it's related to business, whether it's related to management or the economy. Next one is solving the operational problems. So the complex nature of business and government is always focused attention on the use of research so that they can solve the operational problems. And in this way, it all research always gives a framework so that they can develop or prepare all the government policies into our economic Indian economic systems. Decisions for policy making. So through research, the alternative policies are to be come out and examine what would be the consequences of these policies, which has been prepared by the each policy maker. So the decision making may not be a part of the research, but based on the research, the decisions could be taken, and the research is always facilitates the policy maker decisions. Solving problems. So automatically research has a special significance of solving up the business and industry operational or the planning problems. So research has always been essential for the social scientists to studying those social relationship and how they will get the answers or solution to the social problems, and accordingly they can provide the practical guidance so that they can solve up the immediate problems of the human relations. Next is business decision, operational research, market research, motivational research are considered very crucial, and their results, which always assist in making business decisions more than a one way. Next one is for students, that the students who are willing to write up a master's or PhD thesis. Research can also be a carrier for all of them who always reach out a highest position in the social structure. It always helps to understand the researcher as a user of the library. So next one is the research, business research is used to generalize a new theories. So to analysts or the intellectuals, for them, research is always aims to generalize the new theories, turn the existing into the new theories, and develop a critical and a scientific attitude, a disciplined thinking, and just look out the absent of market objectively using up the two types of methods that is called the deductive and inductive methods. So automatically through using up the inductive and the deductive methods, research skills is always be useful in the long run, particularly in this age of information. Now we can come up to the next part of the research, that is called the types of research. The first one is pure and basic research. So it is a type of research approach which always aims to get a better understanding of the subject or a subject area, phenomenon, or a basic law of nature. So this type is always used to advance your knowledge rather than to solving a particular problems. So automatically examples of the basic research in health includes an investigation onto the systems of this coronavirus, an investigation into a causative factors of malaria, an investigation into a secondary symptoms of the high blood pressure. So these are the basic, you can say, statements where a knowledge is to be gained about the particular problems, and just that's called a pure and basic research, which is not focused on solving the problems. Next one is descriptive research. This type of research provides an accurate portrayal of the characteristics of the particular individual or situation or a group. So automatically, if you need to understand the the usage of social media, then automatically in a particular, you can say television or a mobile, so automatically you start understanding the particular usages of the social media in a particular over a period of time. So automatically that means you are applying a descriptive research in order to get into an in-depth analysis or in-depth study of the social media usage, and that's called descriptive research. So it is also called a statistical research because it deals with everything, whether counted, whether non-counted, or whether based on a study which have a huge impact on the lives of the people. So definitely that's then ultimately used into a descriptive way, using the tools of the statistics as well. So it having advantages or disadvantages as well. So advantages could be the less expensive or time consuming and collect a very large amount of notes for a detailed studying as well. Disadvantage, it requires more skills, it does not identify the cause besides the research. Let's take an example to understand this type of research. You could use descriptive research to understand the fashion trends, in a given city when you are planning your clothing collection for a year. So it is very important to understand. So when you are studying in order to understand any of the trends, whether environmental trends, fashion trends, cultural trends in a given city, so you need to plan your study. You need to prepare your collections, your you can say related to the environmental, collect information related to the environment, related to the fashion, related to the culture for over a period of time, whether within a month or within a year, within a quarter basis. So you in this way you can use a descriptive research, you can conduct an in-depth analysis on the various parameters. If we talk about the fashion trends, so automatically the researcher goes into a in-depth analysis on the demographic makeup of your target area and use the data analysis to establish the buying patterns. That what would be the buying pattern behavior of the particular respondents or the participants of your research. Next one is correlational research. Correlational research, it shows a relationship between the two or more variables without necessarily portraying the cause and effect is called a correlational research. For example, correlation between the obesity and the diabetes mellitus, correlation between the smoking and cancer. So automatically we need to find out whether there is a correlation between two variables or not. And that is called the correlational research. So a particular researcher analyze to correlate these two variables or three variables, then it becomes a correlational research. So and it had also having advantages and disadvantages. Correlational research is very easy to collect the information for many subjects or many respondents at a single time. So a wide range of variables and their interrelation are very useful. It's very easy to under this particular research. It also helps to study variables which are not easily produced in the laboratory also. So automatically the resources which are not available in the resource in the particular lab. So automatically through this research, we can also study the variables which is not being applicable or not being useful to do in the laboratories as well. Disadvantages. It does not indicate causation. That means it does not indicate any cause and effect relationships. So it always that is also the one of the limitation, because it had such correlational research has to show the cause and effect relationship, but unfortunately it does not portray that, and that's why it is one of the limitation of the correlational research. It always faces the problems with the self-reporting methods. You cannot need, if somebody researcher made a self-reports based on the correlations between the two variables. So sometimes it also faces the major problems relevant to the correlations between the variables. Next one is exploratory research. This type of research will be conducted for a problem which has not been clearly defined. So it always helps the best research design, the data collection method, and selection of subjects. So automatically in this particular research, you need to identify a problem which is not being clearly defined yet. So automatically in this way, you can apply the research designs, data collection methods, selections of subjects as well. So automatically it totally depends on the secondary research. So if you choose any of the problem, you need secondary sources of data like online marketing, exploring through different sites, and collect the data. That's called exploratory research. Quantitative research. Quantitative research is always involves numbers. How you quantify the research mathematically in numbers. That's called quantitative research. Qualitative research, it is very difficult and impossible to quantify mathematically, such as beliefs, meanings, attributes, symbols, and that's called qualitative research. It always aims to gather an in-depth understanding of the human behavior, and that's called qualitative research. And the last one is social research. Social research is almost a study of the social trends, the dynamics of the culture, the principles that exist between the individuals and within the society. So automatically the professionals who deals with socializing or the community or the society, they perform the social research to better understand the social factors. It could be the culture, it could be the religion, it could be any kind of this meritable status who always motivate and influence the human beings' behavior, and how they will analyze that how and why the humans interact with each other. And that's called social research. Role of research in important areas. The first one is marketing. For marketer, research is not utilized for the purpose of learning, but it also aims as a major element required to make a good decisions. So automatically, it will use to marketing areas or issues or concern. So automatically, it is a process that how it will link the buyers and end users to the marketers through information, and that information is a major role to play, and the research is required to generate, to refine, to evaluate the issues or concern and turn into marketing actions, how or keep a record, a track on the performances of the marketing strategies being adopted by the organization, how to understand the marketing as a process. Next one is production. Research is possible for a business to decide what to produce, how much to produce, when to produce, to whom to produce in the area of the production. And the research tools are always being applied in the quality, it helps to control the quality, to set up an optimum stock level, whether the reorder level, reorder quantities, economic order quantities. This is how to set up an optimum inventory levels using of the tools of you can say costing. Next one is strategy making. Researchers always inform and help to shape up the business strategies, how they will stimulate the strategic planning. So in this way, business research is always helps to the business organizations in the areas of preferences, consumer satisfaction, experiences, that what products are actually needed for further development if it is being rejected by the customers, and what new features and experience to that is very important to make the strategies, and maybe that is research only. Next one is government economy is the foundation for government policies. Research helps to formulate government policies in the economic zone. Like for example, to research is utilized in reducing finance security budget annually. It helps to formulate the budgets where the security finance budget for the railway budget, production budget, transportation budget, finance budget, the economy. Next one is advertising effectiveness. So organizations make use of research so that how it will make a success of advertising. So an auto manufacturer may wish to know what percentage of people saw its most recent TV commercial ad. So the auto company may find that more people become aware of its advertising the longer the TV ad runs. So the more and more the ads would goes on in the TV, the more and more people would always aware about the ad, about their products through the advertising. So this is how, and the research is always goes on that how the people could see at different times that the same TV ad commercial, and the few people and what others can't, what was the reasons that other can't able to see that. So business can utilize research and how the consumers recall the messages and slogans for their advertisements. Network system services and distributed computing. So the research team is always helps in this area, what's going on about the future of the internet, about the communication infrastructure, about the computing infrastructure in a very broad scale. So the researchers are always been interested in the creation of the innovative communication protocols as much for in the modeling of the existing networks. So in order to perform, you can say, better to perform to meet up their needs, organizational needs, so that accordingly they could identify the size, the performances accordingly in it. Next one is risk management. So automatically, in order to understand the current scenarios, so obviously it leads to lower risk. So research provides all those parameters that how the business could manage and reduce the risk. So researching trends, understanding the market conditions, or analyzing the market condition, which always helps to find out the need for increased insurance, alternative shipping requirements, transportation requirements, the need to assess and sell assets. So that is which is everything requires a finance management, how to control the risk, how to reduce the risk when there is a need for increased insurance related to shipping, transportation, and how to access and sell assets as well. So this is also in the finance department, the research is also being required equally. Now we can come up to the next process that is called a research process. Research process consists of a series of all those systematic procedure that a researcher must has to gone through so that they can generate knowledge on a valuable subject area or the relevant topic. So to conduct effective research, the researcher has to understand the research process steps and follow them. So this is a chart which has been described, that is a research process step to identify, first to identify the problem, then evaluate the existing studies, then create hypotheses, then prepare the research design or research methodology, then describe the population, then collect the data, then analyze the data, and then start writing up a report. And this is all steps, a research process steps a particular researcher has to follow. So let's begin, identify the problem. So obviously a researcher has to find out an issue, formulate the research question. That is the first step. So it is very important to define a research problem and what would be the gap, what would be the issues exist in the subject area, and through that you can conduct a preliminary survey, a case studies, interviews with a small group of people, and any observation survey so that you will get to know the exact issue that to be focused in your research. Next one is evaluate the literature. So automatically there should be an examination of all those relevant and existing studies which are very essential in the research process and which are directly linked to your research project. So it is always enables the researcher to identify the different aspects of the problem. So once the problem has been found, the investigators needs to find out more about the problems, about the associated existing studies, and just find out the gap. So this stage is always gives a problem zone background. It always teaches the researchers that about their previous researches, about the existing research, how such studies have been conducted, and its conclusion. So researcher can consistently try to integrate the work or differentiate the existing author's work and others through a literature review. So it always exposes a significant body of knowledge and how and always helps the researcher to follow the research process effectively or efficiently. Next one is create hypothesis. Then next third step is formulate an original hypothesis, which always portray a research topic and define it. So a belief is always solve a logical relationship between the variables. So hypothesis is like there is a significant association between the age and education. So this is a called a hypothesis statement, which is based on my belief, which is based on my logics, which always contain a certain amount of expertise in this field. So that is why this is called, this is a way that how a researcher could create an hypothesis. So it is very important for the researcher to keep in mind to formulate the hypothesis, which is always related to your research topic. Next one is research design. So research design is a plan that how a particular researcher could achieve the objective and answers the research questions. Next one is population. To describe the population, the research project always look a specific group of people, facilities, what technologies to be used in the businesses. So automatically in research, the term population refers to the study group, which group you a particular researcher wants to include in their study, wants to include to study that group, to collect that data from that particular group sample, and that is called population. So researcher wishes to investigate a certain group of people in a community. The research can also target a specific group of people like males and females, a geographic location or ethnic group, that is called the population. Data collection is an important to obtain the knowledge and information required to answer any to answer any research issue. So every research collect the data either from the literature or from the people being included or the researcher want to include in their study. So data must be collected from the two categories of the researchers, and the sources would be from the primary data such as experiment, questionnaires, observation, interviews, secondary data that would be the literature review, official or unofficial reports, an approach which is based on the library resources. Next one is data analysis. So during the research design, the researchers always plans the data analysis. So once the researcher collect the data, the researcher has a next steps to analyze that data. So whatever the research result, whatever the results or the research findings would come out from the analyzing the data are to be reviewed and reported. So the data analysis involves a number of closely related stages, such as setting up the categories, applying those categories to raw data, then turn into the codings, then turn into the tables, and then accordingly draw a statistical conclusions. So that's called a data analysis. And the last step is report writing. So after completing all of the you can see above steps, the researcher has to prepare a report detailing his findings. So the report must be carefully composed with the following the parameters. That is, the first one is layout. On the first page, the title, date, acknowledgement, the preface should be on the report, and the table of contents should be followed by a list of tables, graphs, and charts, if any. Next is introduction. So introduction should always state the research purpose, the methods to be applied for a research study. And this section is also include the study scope and the limits of the study, so that a particular reader or a particular you can say any other individual will able to understand that what the study is all about. Next one is summary of findings. So after collecting the data, after analyzing the data, the next step of the researcher is to summarize their finding, and if any recommendation is needed, they actually follow that introductory path so that they can accordingly recommend any suggestions or for the future research. So and the findings should be summarized if they are lengthy. Next one is principal report. The main body of the report should make some sense, and it always being broken up into a various section which is easily to understand. So automatically, and accordingly, when there is a need to break up the section, you can easily do into a various chapters. Next one is conclusion. So the starter should restate It is finding at the end of the main task that what would be the final outcome of the study, and what the authors, what the readers could learn from this particular new study. That could be the conclusion of your project or report, and that would be the final result. Because after all, after so much efforts and hard work, a particular researcher has conducted his new study. So what is new results has come out from your study, and what would be the new findings from your main study. That could be that could be the conclusion, and that particular points or the key points must be included in the final results. So this is all about the research process, the total 8 steps, step by step a particular researcher has to follow and reach to prepare a final report following the various parameters or the format which has been mentioned on the screen. Till time, thank you for listening this lecture. I will come up to the more and more important and relevant topics in the following up blogs. Till time, thank you and namaste to all.